just finished the.
Yes, I did. Final inspection, everything. No, I just want to talk What? Is he still working with Where is he working? We're going to get the show on the road in 2 minutes.
Yeah, here, fine.
For perspective. I tried to be supportive and congratulate in a safer way.
Yeah.
So I can see more. Sandy? Yes, sir? That motion has been seconded. It looks like Harry signed it. Okay, that's fine. Is that right?
You go for it, Perry. Is that for me?
Yeah, that's
Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to bring this meeting to order. Councilor Austin.
Moved by Katie Austin, seconded by Perry Ritchie, that the meeting of the regular council of the Township of Springwater of September 21st, 2015 come to order at 6:29 p.m.
It's actually 6:30 on the
All right,
computer.
all right.
All those in favor? Carried. So, everyone, I'd ask you to stand if you're able for the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I'd ask you to remain standing for a moment for private reflection or private prayer. So you may be seated. So if you're following the agenda, we're on to item 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest. So is there any member of council that has a pecuniary interest or a conflict on any of the agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we shall proceed. And I'll call on Councillor Ritchie for the resolution for the public meeting.
Thank you, Mayor French, moved by Perry Ritchie, second by Katie Austin, the public meeting regarding ZB-2015-016, Edburn Developments, and ZB 2015-018, to Jersey will come to order at 6:33 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. So those following along, we're at 5.1 on the agenda, and this is a public meeting, and I do have a prepared script which I will read. Welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council held in compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act to give the public an opportunity to express their views in regard to 2 proposed amendments to the Township of Springwater's zoning bylaw as amended. The first part of this meeting is to present the amendments. Following that, an opportunity to be given to enable those who have any comments, concerns, or inquiries with regard to these proposals to make their views known to council. In addition to any comments made at this meeting, written presentations would also be welcomed by council. If a person or public body who files an appeal of the decision of the Township of Springwater in respect of a proposed zoning bylaw amendment does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to the Township of Springwater before the proposed zoning bylaw amendments are passed, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of the appeal. Any persons who wish to speak should first give their name and address. All comments or questions should be addressed through the chair, that's me. Oral submissions will form part of the public meeting record, including the name and address of the speaker, as information collected under the Planning Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the website. So the first application, Edburn Developments Corporation, ZB-2015-016. I'll now call upon the clerk to confirm notice of this meeting and the dates in which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on 28th day of August 2015 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 24 properties in the Township of Springwater within 120 meters of the area to which the proposed amendment would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was also sent to the applicant's agent. Notice was also posted at the assessed property to which the proposed amendment applies, at a location that was visible from Tentang Road and Davenport Crescent and on the Township's website. Several items of correspondence have since been received from Asia Poulis, Corridor Management Planner with the Ministry of Transportation, identifying several things such as the Ministry has no objections to the proposed amendment. However, please consider that MTO building and land use permits are required prior to grading and construction, and access point must be to the Davenport Drive. Secondly, NBCA have responded acknowledging that there appears to be a viable development envelope from their perspective. They do, however, note that the property is traversed by a seasonal tributary of the Sturgeon River, which appears to be the outlet for stormwater for the adjacent subdivision. NBCA has no objection to the approval of this application to permit a single-family dwelling. Part of the property is worthy of an environmental protection zone to recognize natural hazard and natural heritage features. And they have submitted a draft zoning schedule outlining areas for potential rezoning to the planning permit.
Thank you. And now I'll call upon John Stewart of Innovative Planning Solutions to give a brief explanation of the purpose and effect of the proposal. Please come forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of council, staff, members of the public, my name is John Stewart. I'm a planner with Innovative Planning Solutions, and I'm here representing Edburn Homes, on a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands located at 4810 Penetanguishene Road in the Hillsdale. The lands are comprised of two blocks, blocks 64 and 65 on Plan 51M 694. They have a frontage of 240 meters along Penetanguishene Road, and comprised together are about 4 hectares in size. The lands to the north, east, and west are largely agricultural with interspersed rural residential lots, and then to the south is the Forest of Hillsdale subdivision and the Hillsdale settlement area itself. The lands are designated rural under the Township of Springwater official plan with a hazard constraint overlay, and zoned open space exception zone 5 under the township's implementing zoning bylaw. The plan on the screen represents a conceptual design for one residence on the subject property. The property itself was originally intended to act as a nitrate dilution area for the Forests of Hillsdale subdivision, and is subject to a monitoring program intended to measure the actual nitrate loading of the subdivision as it was built and then through its life cycle. A recent hydrogeological report by Wilson Associates showed a nitrate loading of only 10% of what was originally predicted under the Ministry of Environment guidelines from 1991. And the report went on to recommend that the lands could potentially accommodate up to 4 single detached residences under rural servicing levels. Block 64, which is the stub there off of Davenport Drive, is the proposed access to the lands from Davenport Drive. And it also marks the beginning of a stormwater management easement in favor of the township that runs through both blocks and into block 66, which is the triangular piece that's cut out from the subject lands. A single detached residence in this case can be constructed within the lands without disturbing or even crossing the easement. The lands, as shown by the dotted line, kind of running through the lands there on the plan, that represents the regulation limits of the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority. In terms of the plan and where the building has been placed on that conceptual plan, it can be accommodated without intrusion into the regulation area. The zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to rezone the lands from open space exception zone 5 to the agricultural exception zone, subject to the residential provisions of that zone, to permit 1 single detached residence. At the proposed exception zone in this case relates to introducing a more restrictive rear yard setback requirement of 30 meters in order to ensure the privacy of the abutting residences along Davenport Drive are maintained to the greatest extent possible. With regards to the planning policy in place, provincial policy allows for limited residential development on rural lands where the proposed can be sustained through rural servicing levels. The provincial policy statement also requires that any proposal not impact the ability of a settlement area expansion. Through consultation with the township, it was uncovered that no expansion of the Hillsdale settlement area is currently anticipated, and if it were to be anticipated in the future, these lands would not represent the logical expansion area for that settlement area. The county official plan designates the lands rural, and under this designation, single detached residences are permitted. The lands are also classified as being class 5 to 7 under the Canadian Land Inventory, which denotes a low agricultural potential for the lands. Section 18.3.4 of the Township Official Plan allows for single detached residences on vacant rural lands where agricultural potential of the lands has been shown to be low. So overall, the proposal aims to rezone the vacant lot from open space exception zone 5 to the agricultural exception zone, subject to the residential standards, proposes a more restrictive rear yard setback to protect privacy of abutting lots. The township easement that's on the subject lands remains undisturbed and uncrossed, and there will be no intrusion into the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority's regulation area. The proposal will make use of an existing underutilized lot within the township. Thank you for your time, and at this juncture I would like to field any questions that council or the public may have.
Okay, I'll first turn to the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to ask any questions in this application? Seeing none, I'll turn to council. Can you take their questions if anyone may have? Councilor Austin?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Stewart, could you put on the first map that you had,
I didn't.
that one, yes?
Okay.
Are you saying that that little rectangle at the bottom is going to be used for an access road?
Through his worship, that is correct, yes.
And can you pinpoint with your laser exactly where the lot would be?
Sorry, the law?
Where the house would be located on the map?
Yeah, it's not, and the resolution's not great either. But, is this a laser? Oh, it is. Okay. So that's the building footprint,
Oh, okay.
and it's essentially been shown that way. It's mimicking what's in the Forest of Hillsdale subdivision in order to maintain the character of the area. And then we've also placed in where the septic bed will have to go, the well, and essentially set it back 30 meters from this lot line, which is considered the rear in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Holland?
Thank you, Mayor French. Would the area be fenced at all? And if so, do you know where that might be? And is there access presently by people to the forested area? And what would be the impact once this was occurring?
Through his worship, in terms of the question of fencing, if that is a requirement to maintain the privacy, then of course a fence would be put up just within the lot lines here. It was our intention to hopefully keep it unfenced, and that's kind of the purpose for the 30-meter setback. However, if it is a stipulation that it is to be fenced to maintain privacy, I don't anticipate an issue with that. In terms of, sorry, what was the second question again?
The forested area.
Right, the forested area. So these are public lands currently, so the public does not have access to them. So it would not impact any current rights or use of the lands by the public.
I think, did you mean they're private lands at the present time? Not public?
Yes. Sorry, they're private lands. Apologies.
I'm still wondering.
No, and as a matter of fact, we've seen this in other things, you know, people kind of wander into people's property and obviously if it's private property, they really don't have a right to do that without permission, so yes, it might restrict some activities, I guess, in the forest, but I'm sure that property owner will work something out. Any other questions? Okay. Councilor Ritchie.
There's community water there at Davenport. Could they not hook into that water line and run the water line down there with it and drill a well?
Through his worship, that is something I'm sure we can approach the township with. At this case, there's provincial policy in place that with you service rural lands, it can't come to unreasonable extension of municipal services. I mean, we'd be willing, I'm sure, to approach the issue with the township to consider municipal water. But in terms of the fact that these are rural lands outside of a settlement area, it may not be the most economical option for the township to do that and to maintain that. But like I said, if it is an option they want to approach, then we will approach that issue.
Yeah, and just to clarify, because it is rural lands, there's no requirement to look into the municipal services regardless of how close they may be.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. Oh, sorry, I have someone from the audience now. Yes, come forward, microphone, name, address.
Yeah, I'm Daryl Mordew, 51 Davenport Drive.
Okay.
I just got a quick little question there about right behind my place there.
Okay.
Where this is, and looks like there's been 5 test wells.
Yes.
Was that the nitrates or for test
Yeah,
wells?
that was through his worship. That was part of the hydrogeological assessment, where you do
okay.
boreholing to assess the nitrate loading and to essentially comes down to how well the lands could accommodate
Right.
residents. So.
Very good, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from anybody? Okay. Well, thank you for attending the public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment by Hepburn Development Corporation. We'll now move forward with the public meeting for the Preserve Mount Stone application. And again, I'll turn to the clerk to confirm notice of this meeting, the dates on which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 28th day of August 2015 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 9 properties in the Township of Springwater within 120 meters of the area to which the proposed amendment would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was also sent to the applicant's solicitor and agent. Notice was also posted to the assessed property to which the proposed amendment applies at a location that was visible from Floss Road 6 West and on the Township's website. Several pieces of correspondence have also been received from the Simcoe County District School Board, identifying that the planning staff have no objections to the amendment, and the NBCA identifying that they have no objections to the approval.
And for those that are following at home, we're at 5.2 on the agenda. And I'll now call upon Amy Knapp, Township Planner, to give a brief explanation of the purpose and the effect of the proposal.
Thank you. The subject property is known municipally as 1351 Cross Road 7 West and was subject of a surplus farm dwelling consent approval back in June of this year. The purpose of this amendment is to fulfill 2 conditions of that consent approval. The first is the surplus farm dwelling lot is to be rezoned from the agricultural A zone to the agricultural exception A-54 to recognize the size of the existing accessory building on site and to prohibit the keeping of livestock in it. Secondly, the retained farmland is to be rezoned to the agricultural consolidation zone, which will prohibit residential land uses. Staff considers the application to be consistent with policies provided within the provincial policy statement as well as county and township official plans. And in closing, staff do recommend approval of the application and have included a draft bylaw in this evening's agenda for consideration and approval subject to any comments received this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any member of the public have any questions on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn to council. Is there any questions on this application? Councilor Austin.
I noticed that in letters received, there is none from the NVCA, and in the past, I've often heard one. We've got one from the school board, but nothing from NVCA. Is that okay?
Sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. We did receive a letter from the NVCA with no objection.
Any other questions? Okay, so that brings this public meeting portion of tonight's meeting to a close. And so I'll call on Councilor Ritchie, the adjournment.
Thank you, Mayor Franks, moved by Perry Ritchie, second by Katie Austin, with the public meeting regarding ZB 2015-016 Hepburn Development and ZB 2015-018 adjourns at 6:51 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. So we'll move on to direction following the public meeting, and we'll move on to item 6.1 on the agenda, and I'll call on Deputy Mayor Allen.
Moved by Allen, seconded by Ritchie, that subject to comments received at the public meeting regarding an application by Hepburn Development Corporation and deliberations in the affirmative, that staff report further on file ZB-2015-016.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Carried. Councilor Coghlan.
Moved by Coghlan, second by Hannah, that the report from the planner regarding ZB 2015-018 dated September 21st, 2015 be received, and that subject to the comments received at the public meeting, that the bylaw be presented to council for consideration.
Any further questions? Seeing none, those in favor? Carried. Okay, we are moving on to 7.1 on the agenda. And we have a deputation here from John Stewart, Innovative Planning Solutions regarding Green Meadows. So if you'd like to come forward.
I have a small package if I may approach.
Just a question before you start. Is this the same information that we did receive before this meeting?
That is correct. I was unsure on what
Sure. Okay,
size.
thank you.
what-
Thanks.
Your worship, my name is John Stewart, and we were asked to send this delegation to speak towards proposed servicing requirements for the Green Meadows of Elmvale subdivision, formerly known as Pro Elm 2, to speak towards a sanitary connection through Homer Barrett Park. To my right is Jeff McHugh, who is an engineer and principal engineer at Garrett's Engineering, who is the engineer on the project. So I will hand it over to him to speak towards this proposal, and any engineering questions you may have, please direct it to Jeff. Thank you.
Your worship, members of council, as John indicated, my name is Jeff McHugh, principal engineer at Garrett's Engineering. When we were looking at the servicing options for the proposed development, sanitary was the main concern on how to get it to the municipal system. We looked at various options, and one of the options that kept coming up was a gravity main flow towards Centennial Avenue through Homer Barrett Park. We met on site at the park and discussed the options with township staff, and came up with this route that goes to the north of the rink, north of the covered gazebo, trying to keep it away from everything, versus an option which we did explore at one point, which is a pump station. So if anyone has any questions about the routing.
Maybe, do we want to have any comments from maybe our Director of Public Works or Planning on this matter? Or turn to council for questions?
Thank you, Your Worship. Previously, through the Pro Elm 2 subdivision, previous councils did endorse an outlet through the Homer Barrett Park there. At that time, though, any agreements between the developers and the townships were never reached. So that's why this issue is coming back up tonight. The developers here tonight have proposed to cross along the north end of the park there, as you can see in the drawing. And we're seeking endorsement tonight on council's preferred option on whether the council sees the park option as an appropriate solution to servicing the situation, or whether an alternative servicing scenario would be more appropriate. I've attached my staff report to this agenda tonight. We are recommending that the township enter into negotiations with the developer to seek a solution here across the top end of the park. Obviously subject to any council considerations about compensation or disruption of park services and that sort of thing. Thank you. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor French. My recollection is when we discussed this as a council before, there's still not settlement of the additional 34 units to 113 versus 74. what is the impact, if any, of the fewer number of units, 74 units, back to 74 rather than 113? And I noticed that this is different, the handout, by the addition of $25,000 for park restoration as good or better compared to the material we had with in the agenda. So just look forward to comment on that. Thank you.
Through your worship. Again, yes, there's been no agreement on the park location or the restoration of the park, and no agreement has been made with respect to compensation for using the park facilities. With respect to your comments on whether these pipes would need to be upsized, I believe they proposed a 200 millimeter main to go through here previously. I don't believe the additional 34 units that have been proposed would require any additional sizing to that piping. Just refer to the Director of Public Works on that for confirmation though.
I just mentioned that at the end of our information, there was we did have that information that totaled to 89,370. We're still in the, actually it's a good question. We're still not kind of finalized on what this development may look like. We're still going through the exercise. I think at this point it's still discussions between kind of the planning staff and the developer, and there's been no final solution recommended at this point since our last meeting, providing kind of the expanded number of homes. Is that correct?
You're correct. Your worship, this is sort of an interim step before staff moves to a recommendation on the actual subdivision application. What we're looking for tonight is how we want to service this option or this subdivision. The developers, in this situation, they had proposed to go through the park. If that was refused or not endorsed here tonight, the developers would have to seek an alternative option, which would obviously include revision to their proposal. They would have to remove one lot to incorporate a pumping station or something of that nature. So absolutely right, no decision on the actual subdivision approval is being made tonight or being sought. They're simply seeking the services and options.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor France. So for further clarification, if we went back to 74 units, would this still be the solution with respect to the?
Through your worship, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then maybe from a big picture perspective, when we're looking long term, and maybe I turn to the Director of Public Works or even Director of Finance. On an ongoing operational perspective, is it less expensive for us to operate this kind of gravity-fed rather than an additional pumping station?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, it is less expensive on the gravitational system.
Thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French, through the gentleman engineer. How much fault is there from proposed subdivision of Centennial Avenue?
Member of council, through your worship. We have 0.5% fall regularly across it. So I think we're looking at 300 meters, call it about 1.5 meters.
That's it for fault?
2 meters of fall. That's plenty for a sanitary pipe.
But that's enough though in order to
Correct.
give you enough fall so that we don't have to look into a pumping station or anything like that?
No, that's plenty of fall.
That's plenty of fall.
Plenty of fall.
Mayor French, through the gentleman again. So when these are done, you're going to put it back the way it is there now?
Correct.
Its present state?
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Councillor Cogman.
Pretty Mayor French, just curious, where it comes out is basically the entrance to the park. So
Correct.
during this construction, there will be no access to any portion of Homer Barrett?
That's not entirely. Typically, how they would service that, they'd start from the downstream end and work their way up. And that would be the first section of pipe to be put in and backfilled and got to a state where it can be usable. So it wouldn't be for the entire life of the construction. It would be probably for the first 3 days, 4 days. It would be a limited period, and it'd be our goal to have access as often as we could.
Councillor Austin.
Now through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Coghlan, there is another access on foot from,
We
sorry.
we can have information from the applicant or from staff, preferably not from each other.
I have a question then.
Question, yes.
So it looks as if, you know, if we go with Plan A or Plan B, Plan A, if it's viable, is the less expensive of the two. How long would it take to get the results from the soil study, which would say whether or not we go with Plan A?
Your Director of Public Works would care to answer that, or the applicant, how long it take to do the soil studies?
Mayor French, thank you. We have requested that through the developers, the engineers, the developer's engineer to best answer for us.
In regards to the soil studies, that's not an uncommon thing to be asking for in a situation where we know we're going to have a high groundwater table. So when we're doing these works, likely we're going to have to take a permit to take water for some or all of that action. So that's what the soil study is actually looking for, is to see if we need to take a permit to take water. Typically the study would, from the point we can commission it to we get preliminary results, we're looking 3 to 4 weeks.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. If you have a green light to go, are you planning on starting this year?
No. We would be unable to get the permit to take water and the MOE approvals to do so this year.
So it'll be next year.
It would be next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn to Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. Moved by Perry Ritchie, seconded by Katie Austin, with the report from the planner regarding Green Meadows of Allenville sewer line options reported dated September 21st, 2015 be received, and the township proceed to negotiate an agreement with the developer for the installation of a sanitary sewer line through Homer Barrett Park as generally outlined in the subject report and subject to the findings of a soil quality study to the satisfaction of the township.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? Carried. Next item, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 7.2, and we're going to have a presentation by Councillor Austin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor French. At the last council meeting on September 8th, Kate Harries did a personal delegation asking if the township could do something about the Syrian refugee crisis. Mayor French, you asked me if I would be willing to take the lead on that, and I said yes, I would. So in the meantime, since then, I've arranged to have a meeting here at the council chambers on Wednesday, September 23rd at 7 o'clock. I sent email notices to all the churches within the township, asking them to mention it from the pulpit last Sunday and to speak and to put it in their bulletins. And I also sent out some notices to a few women's institutes groups and some of the service clubs here in Springwater Township, and I thank the township staff for providing me with those details. So I don't have any idea how many people will show up, but we'll find out. At that meeting, we are going to do 4 things. First of all, discuss the information that's out there in terms of what's being done or wants to be done to help Syrian refugees resettle here in Canada. Secondly, to ask the audience to give us an idea of what people here are interested in doing and what sort of commitment level there might be. Thirdly, we will form a committee, and when I say we, I mean Kate Harris and myself. Form a committee of maybe 6 or so to develop the beginnings of a plan. And I've called another meeting for the large group at the Elmville Community Hall on Tuesday, October 6th. And I've already put notice of that in the Springwater, in my column in Springwater News. So I think that we need to make it clear that this is not necessarily something that the township itself is taking responsibility for, but just the fact that I happen to be a counselor and I'm happening to take a lead on this. Ultimately, it would be my wish that somebody from the general public would take over as the lead, and that I would be the council liaison.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Anyone? Okay, I noticed on here that there is an immediate request for $500. And I thought my understanding was the information from AMO was $100 per municipality. I'm just wondering how we got
Mr.
to
Mayor?
500.
Mr. Mayor, it says the AMO letter said a minimum or at least $100, but we could open that up to an amendment.
Just so, with that in mind, should we wait, and it's a question of council, and maybe you have questions, should we kind of be supporting a motion right now to kind of donate the 500 for the Syrian refugees, or would it be best, or what would your desires to be, to kind of wait till we have a report, see what the community wants to do, and then kind of engage? Any questions on that? Councillor Hannan.
Thank you, Mayor French. I think Councillor Austin should be applauded for her efforts, but I do agree with your latter suggestion as we wait to see how our meeting goes with the public and so on, and we may come up with some more innovative ideas, after we heard the feedback from the public.
Other questions? Councillor Austin.
Clarification, Mr. Mayor. In the AMO, or that's the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the AMO letter or request, the intention of the money that AMO hopes to raise, and its goal is $40,000. It was to go directly to an organization known as Lifeline Syria, and to help them do the work. They have been inundated with requests because they are seen as kind of sort of the central go-to person for information on how does one go about sponsoring, and what are the pros, what are all the steps involved. So if the money, if AMO raised $40,000, it would be given to Lifeline Syria, not to any work that we're doing here in Springwater Township. So I think I see them as two separate things.
Okay, I'll explain. Councillor Cogman first.
My concern would also be with the deadline being October 2nd. We wouldn't have a meeting, well, they're requesting that the funds be forwarded by October 2nd, so I just want to make sure that this council is aware that they're asking for $100, or minimum $100 by a specific date.
Councillor McConkey.
Well, I would like to sort of maybe support for the $100 from the request from the AMO at this point, so that we do meet the October 2nd, and then we can see where the public wants to go. And because this isn't directly for a family or anything, this is to help with the aid and everything. So I think, well, I might be wrong in saying that, but the $100 is being requested by the AMO, and I think that that's sort of a challenge, and I wouldn't mind as a municipality supporting that request.
Okay. Other questions? Councillor Austin.
In response to Councillor McConkey's suggestion, you mentioned $100. That would require a friendly amendment to the motion. And just for clarification, as I said, the money, the $40,000 AMO raises would be going to help Lifeline Syria organize. They obviously are going to need more staff to process all of the requests coming into them. The money would not go directly to, feed anyone right now. It would be just to get organizations happy.
Thank you, Councillor Coghlan.
I was actually going to mention a friendly amendment, if we could do $100. Sorry, I have a cold. I was going to ask if we could do, my question was to do a friendly amendment for the $100 this evening and then move forward with any additional requests after tonight.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, actually, because the resolution hasn't been tabled, you can just change it to the $100. And I think the comment is, we're not suggesting that would be all of it. We're suggesting we can deal with one issue, and then after your meetings night, you may come back with obviously a different program that you may want supported. One of my only caution in the entire thing is that it would be nice if we could establish some sort of policy for refugees in general. Yes, we do need to deal with this immediate crisis because it's a huge crisis we haven't seen for a long time. But we also should be at the same time thinking of a kind of general policy, how we're going to respond to these type of events. But I think it would be best if we kind of deal with the $100 because the timetable, with the caveat that if you come back with another report after your meeting, maybe we're going to entertain a different resolution for a different amount of money. So if that's okay with you, I ask you to read your motion accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Katie Austin, seconded by Perry Ritchie, that the Township of Springwater respond to the call to action challenge initiated by the Association of Ontario Municipalities and immediately donate $100 to aid in the international effort to resettle Syrian refugees in safe countries.
Any further discussion? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to previous minutes. And we're at 8.1 on the agenda if you're watching from pleasure of home. And before we kind of table the resolution, I just want to make a note that I had declared a conflict in 12.1. I will be voting to accept the minutes because that's all we're doing. But I just want that noted that I had kind of declared a conflict in 12.1. So Councillor Coghlan.
Moved by Coghlan, second by Hannah, that the minutes of the Township of Springwater regular council meeting be held on September 8th, 2015 be as approved as presented, or as amended.
Yep. Any questions? Actually, we don't really have to amend with my declaration. It's not really an amendment, it's just kind of a note for the record. Yeah. Any questions, further questions on that? Those in favor? Carried.
My question is that in the minutes it says that Councillor Coghlan had a pecuniary interest and for this reason. So I'm just curious why one member of council's declaration of pecuniary interest would be in there and then not everybody's.
That's who's just-
Yeah.
For that question.
They both were.
They were both there, okay.
Okay, Councillor Hannah.
I don't have it.
Closed session.
What is it?
Okay.
Sorry, Your Worship, I was thinking about the ball game. Moved by Hannah, second by McConaughey, that the closed session minutes for Township of Springwater Council meeting held on September 8, 2015 approved as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, question period. And as I always say, preferably items on the agenda, but we'll entertain any questions. So please come forward, name, address, and pose your question. We'll see what we can do with providing you an answer.
really didn't want to be first, but seeing as everybody seems to have left. Kevin Newman, 3 Silverwood Crescent, Midhurst, Ontario. I am asking a question tonight, and I'm going to read it so that I don't make a mistake. We are hearing many rumors circulating in the community about intimidating letters from the developers to council as a whole, as well as individual members of council over the last few months. Residents are alarmed about potential threats to the democratic process in Springwater. In the spirit of clarity and transparency, will council please confirm whether such letters have been received, and if so, will council post them on the township website so that everyone has a full picture of what our elected representatives are dealing with and can then take appropriate action to support this council that they voted for? Thank you.
I guess the simple answer is we posted appropriate information. There's some letters that were not addressed to council, and obviously that information will not be shared. There's our methods of probably getting access to it. But I think we're trying to be consistent with sharing as much as possible. And at the same time, we're not here to kind of create kind of friction between any parties. And I guess that's the simple answer to the question. And I'm not sure I can call on anybody else. Our CAO would like to comment.
Mr. Mayor, and to our questioner, the part of our website that's dedicated to the Midhurst secondary plan timeframe, if you go to the bottom, it has different years, even to 2015, and a number of the letters are actually there. Anything that is public, and I say that things that are of public availability, if there are any letters that have been sent to individuals, they would be private matters, and we cannot get into that. But we're doing our best through that website, if you look up there,
Yes.
to detail every letter that we can.
So just to clarify, because this is one of those policy things that I probably should understand, but just can't always. A letter from an individual to the council can be made public. A letter from an individual to an individual councillor is not necessarily able to be made public. That is correct?
Yeah, it depends what well, for the most part, yes. The simple answer is yes.
Okay. All right, well then, thank you for your time. I would also like to submit this in writing to Mr. Daly. I'm wondering if I can approach to do that.
Yes, you may.
There we go. Apologize for this Google letterhead.
Anyone else would like to ask a question? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward to 10.1. And we'll have a discussion and this indemnification bylaw. Any questions from anyone at council? The red line version is pretty straightforward. Councillor Austin.
Just one quick question. I assume that what we read means that the township will pay court costs if a councillor or employee is being sued, but not if the individual chooses to sue someone else. Is that correct?
I'll turn that over to Clerk Daly.
I would generally agree with that statement. It's all about acting in good faith.
And one other thing, Mr. Daly, you'll need to change it to September 21st. The document, the recent one we got was dated August 24th, so it needs to be changed to 21st September. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Austin.
Moved by Katie Austin and seconded by Perry Ritchie that the report from the Director of Corporate Services and Clerk regarding indemnification bylaw dated September 21st, 2015 be received. And that an updated indemnification bylaw be presented for adoption.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, the next one is animal control length of stay amendments to the bylaw, 10.2. Any questions on this? Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Worship. Just an observation. When this came before us before, there was no exception there for chipped animals. That has now been included in this bylaw. And I realize that some people think 3 days before an animal is either traded out to somebody or euthanized doesn't seem like a very long time, but it comes down to dollars and cents and the healthy animal. And I think the fact that if the animal is chipped, they can find the owner, the animal will be retained until it can be returned to the owner. So I think that's important, and it should emphasize to people the more importance of getting your animal chipped to avoid anything like this happening.
Very good comment. Councillor McConkey.
I think we were also told that 3 days is like the minimum, like that's what they have to have as the policy, but they do try to keep their animals longer. Because I know I've been looking at the adoption and they seem to stay there for a while.
Any other questions? Councillor Coggan.
Through you, Mayor French, to Director Schmidt. When I was reading the numbers, it said that there was $26,000 now versus the 15 before, so about $2,000 a month-ish. And then it says that we're going to be overspent by 17.5. And I'm just curious then, so how is that possible? We've already spent the $6,500 on the last term, we're not paying for a full year when we're receiving services, or is it June to June now with them?
Theo Brindley or Director Smith?
Yes. Your worship, just maybe the clerk can weigh in on this first, but the fees charged by the SPCA are significantly larger. And there was actually a staff report that went to council earlier alerting to the fact that we lost our relationship with Fairway Farms. So we will have to find additional money. But it's my understanding too, and that's why I'm asking the clerk to weigh in, is that he was privy to discussions between SPCA and the corporation about the fact that they wanted X number of dollars right away, as opposed to a system where we're used to paying on a monthly basis or on a metered basis. I'm hoping the clerk can weigh into those discussions because he was the one having those discussions with SPCA.
Yes.
So I'll turn to Clerk Daly.
We're just trying to find the report that's being referenced.
Is it James, what I said?
We were overspent by 17.5. That didn't make sense.
Yes, staff is anticipating that the 2015 budget would be overspent by approximately 17.5. The total animal control bylaw includes the collection and pickup at approximately $125 per cat or dog, and then it's approximately $2,000 a month for the OSPCA to keep the animals there as well. So if our average yearly cost to pick up animals is about $15,000, plus the costs, the new costs for OSPCA, that would increase our total overall expenditures, because on average we might pay $300 per animal. Now it's a flat rate of $2,000 approximately per month, which we weren't spending that previously.
Sorry, I apologize. It says that the 26,000 exceeds the budget of 15. Correct? That's not a problem. But we said we've already spent 6,500 to date, so we didn't bring these people on. We didn't bring OSPCA on until June. So were we paying? Is it June to June? Like I don't understand how we're going to be $17,000 over budget.
CEO Greenley.
Through your remarks to Councillor Cogman. Essentially, the $26,000 is an unbudgeted figure, right? So 26,000 plus the 6,500 is 32,500. And so basic is $32,500. So essentially, if you take that less the 15,000 of the budget, we're essentially saying the difference is 17,500. To your comment about the 26,000, my understanding is that the OSPCA is charging us $26,000 for it's their annual rate. My understanding is we're not getting a discount on that rate, that annual rate. So they're not giving us a prorated rate.
After 6 months? So we're paying them for 6 months of service that we didn't receive?
Through Mr. Mayor, Councilor Cogman, that's my understanding, but subject to further discussions with our clerk. I have not been the individual speaking to the OSPCA, so that's my understanding is that that is the cost we've been assessed.
Since I like numbers, so maybe I'll ask the question differently. Is it the 26,000, is that an annualized cost? Okay, and we started this agreement when? From the clerk, June? So theoretically, let's just split it in half, even though it's an extra month. So doesn't 13,000, approximately 13,000 actually apply to the 2016 budget year rather than the 2015, I think is the point of Councillor Cogman's question.
Yes.
So we will not be that much over budget in this fiscal year.
Our friend, and that's why I'm asking our clerks to come. Right now, they just wanted the money up front.
Right.
And that's why sort of we're dealing with this fund in this year. And as we finalize the negotiations on the contract, because we still don't have a contract in hand, at least that either of us see. So it's like, we want the money up front because unfortunately they are the only provider of the service available. And it's our expectation that this will be an annual fee.
And I think and I'll just go to Director Schmidt to wander into a territory I know very little of, but I think one of the issues is that basically our expenses, we don't accrue things. Is that correct? So we wouldn't accrue half of it for next year or something like that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 100% correct. We do accrue. My understanding is, though, and again, subject to further discussions with Clerk Daly, is I'm not familiar with the contract that we have with the OSPCA, and so one would think that yes, we would get a prorated rate. However, I haven't seen the contract, so at this stage, worst case scenario is that we will have a budget exposure, maybe not to the extent that we've suggested here. However, not knowing exactly how the contract is worded and or how it operates, if you will, I can't speak for that.
Okay. Would it be helpful if maybe on this resolution we just asked that a report come back for clarification? Would that be of assistance?
I'll gladly report further. I'm not sure how I can clarify. The total contract liability is approximately $2,000 each month, and the over the again $2,000 each month. How we came up with those numbers, again, we were trying to forecast how many dogs and cats might be lost or found, and again trying to determine at that point in time what our expenditures were with our experience with the previous pound. So it is difficult to determine how many dogs will be lost.
And our deputy mayor's going to weigh in.
I would suggest that when Mr. Schmidt gets a chance to look at the contract, the question is whether we lost out on half a year of the $26,000 or whether we set up a prepaid expense at the end of this fiscal year for the first half of next year. Is that correct?
I think we're all clear, and we're all, Councillor Cogman?
I would appreciate that. If it was, not that I don't value every dollar, but it's just for me when I was doing the math, like you said, the $2,166 a month going forward. I just want to know that I don't want the taxpayer to have to pay for services we're not receiving. So I would like to just follow up with that, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think the report will come out that we're not paying for services we're not getting, but I think that is appropriate for clarification. Any other questions? Okay, with that, Councilor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. Moved by Perry Ritchie, seconded by Katie Austin, that the report from the Director of Corporate Services Clerk regarding council animal control length of stay dated September the 21st, 2015 be received, that bylaw 2013-041 be amended as generally outlined in Schedule A in the subject report.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, the next 10.3, staff report St. Patrick's Way and Shannon Street Engineering. Maybe I'll turn to the Director of Public Works to give us a quick overview.
Thank you, Mayor French. As you are aware, in the 2015 budget, we budget for engineering some projects that allow us to put design on the shelf and perhaps become eligible for funding, such as what we experienced recently with the OSIF second intake. So we do have the St. Patrick's subdivision, about 25 years old now, that has experienced road failures and drainage failures and a need to improve the road. So we called, so we brought this forward in the budget this spring, and we approved a budget of $90,000 to carry out the engineering for the project. We later then went back and revisited that project and reduced the budget amount to $45,000 in favor of forwarding the Kerr Street reconstruction project. So when we went out with the RFQ for engineering to our 3 shortlisted engineers, we were pleasantly surprised to find out that all of the engineering for the entire project is just marginally over the budget of $45,000 in around $47,700. So we had thought that we might get half of the engineering, but we're getting the entire engineering for $47,700. Should you support the recommendation to go with Amy and Associates, who are the highest scoring engineering proposal? Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, Deputy Mayor Allen.
Moved by Allen, seconded by Ritchie, that the report from the Director of Public Works regarding St. Patrick's Way engineering request for quotation results dated September 21 be received, and that Amy Group be awarded the project engineering for a cost of $47,700 plus HST.
All those in favor? Carried. Does anybody want to pull anything from 10.4 to 10.6, or can we go to receiving the staff reports? Councilor McConkey.
I just have a question for 10.5.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Question?
For 10.5 with the Snow Valley, I understand you're going to be having a meeting, I think this week, right? I think I saw something, September. No. October 30th is the final, but I saw something. Just a second.
I think I got a
Yeah.
nod from Director of Public Works that there is a meeting.
So I guess I was just wondering if there's going to be another report come back after that meeting, because this one seems premature.
Director Archer.
Thank you, Mayor French, through the Councilor McConkey. This is an information report just to update where we're at on the Snow Valley Highland tile bid and plant investigation. So at the end of the day, this information report advises you that MOE has now given us the final report on the situation. Of course, you recall previously we had a list of actions that we took action upon. And so now the meeting this coming Thursday, and all parties meeting, is an information sharing with respect to how we progressed on the list of actions letter. And it's also an opportunity to ask any questions of the final report from all parties. and an opportunity then as well for the engineer who's doing the study, update all parties as to where we're at. And then the final report from the township to MOE through our engineer is due by October 30th.
Okay. And I just have a comment on, I guess, 10 point, or the Phelpston drinking water, or any drinking water report. Is it possible that we can just have a one-liner or one paragraph saying the water's okay? Because there's a lot of pages there to read, and it would be nice to have an executive summary, you know, from actually our public works rather than just Aqua, confirming that the water's good in these various wells, because we have a lot of them. Is that possible in the future?
Thank you, Mayor Mentioned. Yes, we had the discussion again with Aqua today about helping us make it in a brief and concise way.
No, it's great, all that information if you want to read it, but sometimes when we have multiple page reports, we don't have as much time to read the wonderful report. CAO Brindley.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually presented to an Aqua Leadership Conference last Tuesday, of which I implored upon the whole industry to speak English. So yes, we are asking for this in a different way, but thank you.
Okay, Councilor Coghlan.
Moved by Coghlan, second by McConkey, that the staff report items 10.4 through 10.7 be received as staff reports for information.
All those in favor? Carried. Is there any of the committee reports that you want to speak to or poll? Okay, seeing none, Councilor McConkey.
Moved by McConkey, second by Councillor Coghlan, that the minutes of the committees of council of the Township of Springwater and the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, other boards and committees, anybody want to comment on any of those minutes? Seeing none, Councillor Hannah.
Moved by Hannah, second by McConkey, that the minutes of the boards and committees of the Township of Springwater and the recommendation contained therein be approved as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence. Okay, Councillor Austin. Actually, do you want to speak the county of Simcoe proclamation? Shall we discuss it first? Any comments, questions? Councilor McConkey?
I was just wondering if we're going to do anything that week, like if staff's going to put stuff on Twitter, recognize certain local food producers in the area. How are we going to sort of do it through social media or through, you know, have something up on the screen? Or are we going to put a thank you in the Springwater News? Big thank you to the farmers.
I think those are all good suggestions. I'm not sure there's a plan at the present time. Right now, I think we're talking about endorsing it, but I think that's a very, very good idea. And we'll pass that on to our clerk, we'll pass it on to our information center. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hannan.
Mayor French, historically, in my recollection, and the CEO will confirm, I hope, that we've never done proclamations in the past that I can recall, and I'm just wondering, well, this is a good one. If we start doing this, where will we draw the line?
I think this one is very, very specific to all of our stakeholders in Springwater. We all eat food. I think that's a common element. And so I think in this particular case, I would certainly support this proclamation. And I do believe our kind of bylaw permits us to kind of support proclamations as we see appropriate. Any other comments, questions? Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Okay. Oh, Councilor Ritchie, sorry.
Mayor French, I just want to, October the 25th, too bad they couldn't, it's a suggestion. They wouldn't roll it back, take in the Thanksgiving weekend, which is always our Elmville Fall Fair. And if they were to start then, maybe we could get the county to come up, being that they like to spend money, put something on at the fair. And there's no better fair in this whole area than the Elmville Fall Fair, celebrating 150 years. And no better place to do that than that average, the local fall fair in Elmville. Just a suggestion.
I think it's a very good suggestion. It's certainly something we could certainly take to the county, and definitely not going to change it for this year because all the promotion material and so forth is already out there, but it would be definitely something to consider for next year. So certainly going to take that information to the county. So, is that the questions? Councillor Austin.
Moved by Katie Austin, seconded by Perry Ritchie. Whereas the Township of Springwater has strong historic ties to agriculture and entrepreneurship, and whereas the Township of Springwater today is home to a large and diverse number of food entrepreneurs, and whereas the Township of Springwater supports and helps cultivate the growth of food entrepreneurs, that the Township of Springwater does hereby proclaim the week of October 25th, 2015 as Local Food Entrepreneur Week to acknowledge, support, and thank all of the food entrepreneurs that have made the Township of Springwater their home and help build our local economy.
All those in favor? Carried. Is there any of the correspondence items that anyone would like to speak to before table the motion? Okay, Councilor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. Moved by Perry Ritchie, second by Katie Austin, that the correspondence and information items 13.2 through to 13.4 be received as information.
All those in favor? Carried. Is there any notices of motion? Okay, seeing none. Is there any items for future consideration that you would like added to our list? Okay. Anyone care to give any municipal updates? Councilor Coggin.
Thank you. From the library board, we would like to extend a thank you to Deputy Allen and Councilor Austin, who attended the Michael Gabriel in Midhurst this past Saturday, and also that we have the Seniors Fair on Wednesday, October 4th in Elmville, and that the Menacing Reading Buddy starts tomorrow. I also wanted to make note of the St. Patrick's Church 150th celebration that took place this weekend. The Friday night was a little windy, but the Saturday was absolutely beautiful, and it was an incredible event. So that was something I was glad to be a part of. And also, following our fire master meeting on Thursday, there was a fire call that had happened at the Menacing, and I asked the deputy fire chief if I could simply stay in the background and kind of watch to see what happens. And I mean, it's an unfortunate circumstance, but it was my heart was racing, and I hats off to the boys that do it, because I could not put myself in that situation. So I just wanted to make note of that as well.
Thank you. Councilor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. Municipal updates. One night last week, and I can't remember, it was Tuesday night, Wednesday night, or Thursday night. Anyways, I was invited up to Tiny Township to, amongst others from other municipalities and other agricultural stakeholders and farmers. And there was the County of Simcoe, there was the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, there was the Northern Development of Economic, and we were asked, I was asked to go up to represent Springwater, and this is something that would not take place until 2017, but they're wanting to do would be called a North Simcoe Agricultural Expose. And so I've been asked to come on to the steering committee. It would be what we have to showcase in Northern Simcoe, our agriculture. So basically it'd be like a fair. I had mentioned to them, the person from the county, about the Sabre Simcoe, which has just been done. If they couldn't come up and put that on there. I had mentioned to them about our Elmo Maple Syrup Festival, because maple syrup industry is very big up in Tiny Township. And it relates back to the French heritage. And, you know, we got the largest one-day maple syrup festival of its kind in Ontario. We have one of the best fall fairs around. So they're definitely looking to us to be part of this. So I'm sharing the information with you. It's new, it's just, there was just a bunch of people sat around. So I'll keep you posted as we move along. But I think this is great for Springwater, it's great for the agricultural industry, for the maple syrup industry, for our fairs, everything. So I want to share that with you, keep you posted. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council updates? Councilor Austin?
Yes, Councillor Ritchie mentioned the Algonquin Fall Fair coming up, and I'm just wondering if there have been any plans for the council to be in the parade. Have they been in the past?
Okay, I will follow up on that.
Okay. I'll walk with you.
Okay. Councilor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to remind everybody that the Midhurst Autumn Fest is on this Saturday, and some of the people at this table that barbecues or hamburgers at the barbecue last year are probably expected to be there again this year. Some of the organizers are sitting here today and tonight, and a lot of people have done a lot of work, so I hope the weather's good.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, then we don't have a closed session this evening. And turn to Deputy Mayor Allen.
Moved by Allen, second by Ritchie, that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? Carried. If anybody's still following along, we're on to item 20. Councilor Cogman.
Moved by Coghlan, second by McConkey, that bylaw 2015-042 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on September 21st, 2015, listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? Carried. Councilor McConkey.
Moved by McConkey, second by Councilor Coghlan, that the regular council meeting of the Township of Springwater is now adjourned at 7:50 p.m. to meet again in regular session on October 5th, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. in the council chamber, Administration Center, Minisink.
All those in favor? Carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Councilor Hannah, could you, through item for future consideration, consider asking for picture-in-picture on the